So we're back. So in this movie, I'm going to take you from the simple quiz, which we just completed, to the fancy quiz, which we're going to complete together. So just for a refresher, remember the simple quiz. This is the quiz, how well do you know cats? In the simple quiz, all of the questions are on one page. There's a button at the bottom that says show me your score. Show me my score. So I come in here and I answer the questions. How well do you know cats? What would a cat eat? I'm just going to get all the answers wrong. Canned tuna, where should you pet a cat? Play with the toes. Oh yeah, at your peril, buddy. What is the average lifespan of a house cat? Let's say 5 years. How many hours per day do cats sleep? We'll say 8. Now I'm going to show me my score, and it says you got 0 answers right. Okay, so that's the simple quiz. All the questions are on one page, and at the end we get a text message telling us how many we got right or wrong. So the fancy quiz is a little bit different. Let me show you what it looks like. And it has basically 2 areas where it's different. The first area is that the questions appear on the screen one by one. So what would you feed a cat? Let's say canned tuna. I'm just going to answer the first question. Oh, now the first question goes away and we see the second question. Where should you pet a cat? Well, under the chin. And what is the average lifespan of a house cat? Oh, 5 years. And how many hours per day do cats sleep? Oh, 8 hours. Okay, that's the end of the quiz. I get my results. I got one answer right. What are you, a dog lover? So here, with the fancy quiz, I get a very custom response. I get the score, one answer's right, plus I get a picture, and I get an evaluation of my score. What are you, a dog lover? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on this. This, remember, is the results div. When the page loads, it's empty. When you're done with the quiz, the JavaScript actually adds this content to it. And while this looks like a lot of content, it's actually in a very predictable format. The top says you got how many answers right. Then the bottom shows an image, and then you get some text. So this image changes based on what answers you gave, as does the text. Let's take this quiz one more time. So let's try to get them all right. What would you feed a cat? High protein cat food. Where should you pet a cat? Under the chin. What's the average lifespan? 15 years. How many hours per day? 16 hours. You got 4 answers right. You are a cat lover. Okay, so to set this up, the first thing that I did is I went to the noun project, and I'm going to show you here in the fancy quiz, you can see. And I got 3 identically sized images. So this one is if you got 0 or 1 wrong, 0 or 1 right, you must be a dog lover. And if you got all of them right, obviously you are a cat lover. And if you got 2 or 3 right, then you're kind of meh. But all these came from the noun project. And what I did in Photoshop, they should be about the same size and shape. I set them all to a width of, I think, 50%. But just FYI, they're all about the same size and shape. Okay, so before you start out on the fancy quiz, you want to create some answers, a variation of answers. And if you want to use images, you want to get all your images together. Okay? All right, so here they are. They're in the fancy quiz folder. So I finished my simple quiz in the quiz setup. So I'm actually going to take those images out of the fancy quiz. I'm going to copy them. Here we go. So I selected them. So they're in the fancy quiz because this is the completed fancy quiz. I'm just going to copy them into the quiz setup folder. There we go. So that I can use them now in my JavaScript. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to the JavaScript. Oh, and by the way, this is the fancy quiz. Notice how the setup of the questions are identical. They're really identical. So HTML is pretty much exactly the same as it is for the simple quiz. The one difference here is I don't have that submit button that the simple quiz has because, and I don't need it, because I get the questions one at a time on the screen. So there's no submit button here. I took that out. So let's go back to the simple quiz. Okay, so I'm going to go to the JavaScript in the simple quiz. And right now, you get the answer to how many things you clicked when you click on that button that says show me my results or show me my score. Again, let's look at that. Okay, so we're going to keep that there for now because we're going to focus on changing the response. This response, we're going to focus on changing that to make it text and images. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the JavaScript. And remember, the JavaScript that's enabled here is called show results. So when you're done answering the questions, you click on the show me my score button and it executes a JavaScript called show results. So in here this is function show results. And all it does is it just says how many answers you got right. Now we probably still want to say how many answers we got right. So I'm going to keep that. But then what we want to do is we want to set up a method whereby if they get 0 or 1 answers right, they get 1 response. If they get 2 or 3 answers right, they get another response. And if they get 4 answers right, they get another response. So this is how I'm going to set it up. I'm going to say if rights less than 2. And what that does is it says if you got less than 2 answers right. So this is the case if you got 0 or 1 answers right. So that's rights less than 2. So if rights less than 2, then we're going to document get element by ID. Okay, we're going to put everything in results. Okay, right now we'll just add inner HTML. We're going to put, so if you got none, you must be a dog lover. Okay. And actually we'll do it this way because we don't want to, inner HTML erases what's inside of the current HTML. How do we set this up? Oh, that's how we did it. Okay. Oh, I gotta stop this. I do. Sorry. Okay, so here we have if you get less than 2 right, we're going to write you must be a dog lover inside the results div. Okay, but else if. So else if occurs when there's 3 or more options. So else if, we're going to have 3 options here. So watch. Else if rights is less than 5, less than 4, right? Okay. Then document get element by ID. The ID's name is results. We're going to change the inner HTML to cats think you are meh. Okay, so that's if you get 2 or 3 right, you get a meh. So the first one is if you get 1 or 0, the next one is 2 or 3. So the next one, else, so we don't have any other tests to run here because this is what happens if you get 4 or 5 right. We're going to say document get element by ID. We're going to put this in the results. Inner HTML. Uh, you are a true cat lover. Okay, so we have three options here. We have if rights is less than 2, so if you get 1 or 2 right, you get a message, you must be a dog lover. If rights is less than 4, you get a message, cats think you are meh. Otherwise, you say you are a true cat lover. Now you might notice something a little strange here. Here we say if rights is less than 2. Well, that's clearly applicable if you have 0 or 1 correct. However, here it says if rights is less than 4, but that could also apply to the numbers 0 or 1. But in this case, it doesn't. And the reason why it doesn't is this, is that when we execute show results, the computer's going to go through and say, okay, does this pass this test? If it does, I'm done. I'm getting out of all the if statements. I'm going on to the next thing. So it ignores, if this is correct, if rights is 1, then it's going to ignore the else if rights is less than 4. It's going to ignore it, and it's going to ignore the else. So that's why we can set it up this way. If it comes as 3, if rights is 3, then it's going to ignore this one. If rights is less than 2, it's going to see else if rights is less than 4. Yes, it is. 3 is less than 4. Then it's going to say cats think you are meh, and then it's going to ignore the last else. And then finally, if it comes in as 5, it's going to say, is rights less than 2? No. We're going to ignore this. Is rights less than 4? No. We're going to ignore this. We're going to do what's in the else bracket down here. And that's very much computer logic. You can have as many conditions as you want. So we could have actually 5 separate conditions here. Or maybe, 5 separate, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. For the different numbers. I wanted to simplify it a little bit so we only have 3. But that's how it works. It goes through the series of if statements, and the first one that it finds to be true, it executes that, and it ignores the rest. Okay, down at the bottom, we still have a statement here that gets rid of the Submit Answers button. So we're going to try this. We're going to see if, depending on how many we get correct, if we get a different answer. If it's going to tell us we're a dog lover, or cats don't like us, or we are a cat lover. And it's going to do that, but it's going to do something else that's a little weird that we're going to have to fix. So let's preview this and see what it looks like. Okay. So I'm going to get all the answers wrong. I'm going to say canned tuna. I'm going to say play with the toes. I'm going to say 5 years. I'm going to say 8 hours. Show me my score. You must be a dog lover. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. So I got the correct response. I didn't have anything right, so it says you must be a dog lover. However, I did not get that message that tells me how many I have right. Now there's a very specific reason for that. Let's try it again just to make sure it works. This time I'm going to answer all the questions correctly. So what would you feed a cat? High protein cat food. Where should you pet a cat? Under the chin. What's the average lifespan? 15 years. How many hours? 16. You are a true cat lover. Okay, but again, I don't get the number of questions I got right, and yet I seem to have coded that in my JavaScript. Well, there's a reason for that. Let's go back to the JavaScript and fix it. So here in the JavaScript, it really does look like we have told it to print the number of answers we got right, because here's our line. Document, get element by ID, results, inner HTML, you got rights, answers right. But here's the problem. Here we're using inner HTML. And with inner HTML, what that does is it takes whatever is currently inside of the HTML tag and throws it away and replaces it with whatever is after the equal sign. So that works fine for this line. But then when we go through the if statements, we're doing the same thing. We're saying document, get element by ID, results, inner HTML equal, you must be a dog lover. So the minute we say this, we're going to throw away the message that says how many you got right. which is kind of a pain. So what we want to do is we want to express this in a different way without inner HTML. And there's a couple ways that we could do this. We could literally take this phrase and we could put it here, although no double. Yeah, I have extra quotes here, sorry. Like this. We could do this on all of them. So we could start it with a sentence that you got this number right, and therefore you must be a dog lover. But then we would have to repeat that for each personalized message, and that's kind of a pain, so I don't want to do that. But instead, what we can do, we can actually put this phrase, this is actually a string, we can put it into a variable, and then we can just add the variable to each of these statements. So how does that work? So I'm going to erase document get element by ID, and I'm going to put in its place var score equal quote you got and number right and answers right. So what this should do, what it should do, is it should put into score, the variable score, a statement about how many you got right. And therefore, instead of putting the same piece of text in all three of these answers, I can just do it this way. So here's the first one, you must be a dog lover. So I'm going to put here, I'm going to put score plus you must be a dog lover. I'm going to put here score plus you must be a dog lover. Or cats think you are meh. I'm going to go here and put score plus you are a true cat lover. So what that should do is it should take this statement and add it to this statement in a single line in the results. So all we did is we put this line of text right here, we put this into a variable so that we didn't have to use inner HTML to write it directly. We can just put in a variable, and then when we need to use inner HTML here, we can use it. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, so I'm going to get everything wrong again. What would you feed a cat? Canned tuna, pull the tail, 5 years, 20 hours. Oh, you got 0 answers right. You must be a dog lover. Look at that. So we have both of the messages. Now we might want to put, let's say, a paragraph sign before you must be a dog lover, so we can put them on separate paragraphs. That might not be a bad idea. Let's try it one more time. I'm going to get all of them right this time. What would you feed a cat? High protein cat food. Where should you pet them? Under the chin. What's the average lifespan? 15 years and 16 hours. You got 4 answers right. You are a true cat lover. Okay. So that works a little bit better. But what we need to do here, I think, I'm just going to put the P into each of these. And when you add tags inside of these strings, you don't get the nice, unfortunately, you don't get the nice automatic close tag that you do. Okay, so now they should be on separate lines. Okay, so I'm just going to pick the last answer. Milk and cream, pull the tail, about 20 years, about 20 hours. You got 0 answers right, you must be a dog lover. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit better. All right, so we have our 2 custom answers, and we have, we've actually added a little bit of HTML to it. So the next thing that we might want to think about doing is adding an image. So now we want to add an image to each of our answers. And we have 3 images in our folder. We have cat.ping for the "you are a true cat lover." We have dog.ping for "you must be a dog lover." And we have meh.ping for "cats think you are meh." And so what I'm going to do is, when functions show results, when each of these if statements are executed, I'm just going to add the HTML for adding the image into this quote area, the string inside of the inner HTML. So right now we have a paragraph that says "you must be a dog lover." Or actually, first it's going to say "you got the number of numbers right," score, and then a paragraph and "you must be a dog lover." What I want to do is I want to put the image between this statement, which is score, and "you must be a dog lover." So I'm going to go here after score and before the P for "you must be a dog lover," and I'm going to put in a quote, and I'm going to make a new P, and I'm going to add the IMG tag, IMG, and then IMG tags, when you want to link them to a specific file, it's IMG space src, and then I'm going to say equal. And now I'm going to use single quotes to tell it the name of the file, because I'm putting quotes within quotes. So in programming, when you do that, it's easiest to use single quotes within double quotes. If you start using double quotes, things get a little hairy. Okay, so this is "you must be a dog lover." Okay, so this is going to be dog.png. Okay, so I just need the single quotes around the name of the file, like that. Okay, now I've closed the image tag, and now I'm going to close the P tag. Okay, now I can actually just get rid of that extra quotation because we close it down here. So I'm going to put dog.ping here. I'm going to go into the next one, and after score and before "P cats think you are meh," I'm going to put in a new P tag and a new IMG tag, src equal single quotes. This is meh.png. Now I know that because I went ahead and did that right. And then close the P. All right, that works. And then the last one, "you are a true cat lover." So this one is going to be P IMG src equals single quote cat.png. Close the IMG tag, close the P tag. Now the reason why this is perfectly good HTML, the reason why it looks a little confusing is because it's all in one line inside of these quotes, right? But we can see we have a P tag, we have an image, we have a close P tag, we have a P tag, we have some text, close P tag. So we should see our images pop up now. Let's see how that works. Oh, but I think we're going to have one problem with our image. I remember this. Okay, let's do real-time preview. So I'm just going to pick the first one, under the chin, about 5 years. Show me my score. You got 1 answer's right. You must be a dog lover. Now, here's something that I know. This background is black. My image is black, and its background is transparent. So the image is here. We just can't see it. And if I do open image in new tab, oh, okay, we still can't see it. It is there though. So what I'm going to do to rectify this results has a black background color. I'm going to choose it to that green, so that way then we'll see our image. Okay, so I'm going to go back and let's see, where did I put? It must be in here. So I'm going to check results. Okay, so here, background color is black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I think this is the green color. Yes, okay. I'm going to take this color and I'm going to replace it here. Okay, and now when we do this, we should see, I'll get all the right questions. So high protein, under the chin, 15 years, 16 hours. Oh, 4 answers right. You are a true cat lover. Okay, I'm going to reload. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to get them all wrong. Canned tuna, pull the tail, 5 years, 20 hours. You got 0 answers right. You must be a dog lover. So it is working. Now, there's a few issues here. Our image is a little bit big. I'm not going to worry about this yet because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on making the questions disappear. So in the original Fancy Quiz, you took one question at a time. And after you clicked the answer of the first question, you got it went on to the next question. So we're going to go on right now and make that happen. And after we make that happen, we'll be able in a better position to style this up. So we've made some progress. We have our image appearing in our results. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when we start the quiz, we only start with one question. Right now we have all the questions showing, and we answer the quiz by answering them by scrolling down the page. Okay, I must be a dog lover. And what we want to do is we want to hide. We want to start off with it so that just the first question is showing, and we want to hide questions 2, 3, and 4. And we could do that in JavaScript. We could hide questions 2, 3, and 4 in JavaScript, but since they're going to be hidden when the page first loads, we can instead just do that in the CSS. And the way we do that is we set the ID for each of these questions. We set the display to none in the CSS. And remember, in the HTML, we were smart enough to set up each question with an ID. So this is ID Q1, this is ID Q2, this is ID Q3, this is ID Q4. So we're going to set it up in the CSS so that Q2, Q3, and Q4 are display none or invisible when the page first loads. So let's go look at the HTML and the CSS to make that happen. So I'm going to go to the HTML, and you can see the first question, it's inside of a section, and it's section ID equal Q1. So that's Q1, and this is Q2, and this is Q3, and this is Q4. And there was a reason why I named these things other than the way I did, other than just the fact that it was logical. Like I could have named this one lifespan, I could have named this one sleep. But what I'm going to do, as you'll see, I'm going to use JavaScript to bring these out and hide them. And to do that, I need some kind of system to make that happen. But for now, we're just going to hide in CSS Q2, Q3, and Q4 so that only Q1 will be visible on the page. So I'm going to go to the CSS. I'm going to go down towards the bottom, maybe after results here. And I have 3 IDs I'm going to do the same style to. So I can use a compound style. This is what it looks like. So the first one is Q2. I'm going to leave Q1 because we want that one to be visible. Q3 and Q4. I'm sorry. Now notice I'm putting commas between these IDs. That's because unlike Submit Answers button hover, this means when a button inside of the ID called Submit Answers is rolled over, then do this. There's no comma here. There's no comma here. See that? No comma. So here, when there's a comma, it means apply this style to each of these IDs independently. So here I'm going to say display none. I'm just going to say display none. Now let's see what our page looks like. Oh my goodness, look at that. All we have is the question and the answer, or the score button. We're not going to use the score button, but we'll keep it here for now. So that's pretty exciting. All right, so I can still do this, right, because I still have that score button there showing me the results. But what I really want to do, I probably just want to get rid of this. What I really want to do is I want to click this, and then I want this question to disappear, and I want to see the next question. So let's go to the JavaScript. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this question disappear. So I'm going to go to the JavaScript. Okay, so here we have function the answer. And so right now it says if the answer is right, add one to the right answer. If it's wrong, add one to the wrong answer. What we want to do is we want to say, okay, which question are we on? And make that question invisible. So to do that, we're going to need a variable to hold the question that we're in. So if it's Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4. So I'm going to call this variable QS. I'm going to set it to 0 in the beginning. So our Q's are set to 0 in the beginning. And this is going to work because the first time this goes through, rights, wrongs, when this if statement is over and I've decided whether this is the right answer or the wrong answer, I'm now going to say, okay, Q's is going to be equal to Q's plus 1. That means add 1 to the current question. So far, at the beginning, when the page is loaded, Q's is 0. So the very first question, when it estimates is this the right answer or the wrong answer, we're going to add 1 to Q's, and that's going to be question 1. So that's going to work. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell JavaScript to make question 1 invisible. And I'm going to use my document get element by ID that way. Let's see if I can do it this way. So it is right. Okay, so it's document get element by ID, get element by ID. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky because we're going to concatenate in here. So we're going to say that this is the letter Q, just the string plus Q's. And what is that going to do? That's going to take the letter Q and put it in front of whatever number is in variable Q's or QS, right? So this will be Q1. And since it's looking for an ID called Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4, that's going to work out. This is also going to let me substitute Q1 and Q2 and use the same logic. You'll see what I'm saying. So instead of saying Q1 specifically here, I'm going to say get an element by ID, put the letter Q in front of it, and then add the number after the Q. That's what that does. Okay. Style display equal quote none. Okay, that's going to get us partway there. So when this is going to execute the first time when the page loads and we click on the first answer, or when the page loads, the number of right is going to be 0, the number of wrong answers is going to be 0, the number of Q's is going to be 0. And then on the first click, it's going to decide, is this right? If it is, it's going to add 1 there. Or is it wrong? It's going to add 1 there. When it's done, it's going to come here and say, okay, add 1 to Q's. So the first time Q's is 0, you add 1 to it, it's 1. And then we're going to say, okay, go get that ID in the document called Q, and then whatever the Q number is. So in this case, it's 1, and make it disappear. Let's see if this works. Okay, so we made 2, 3, and 4 disappear in the style, which is good. So now let's see what happens when I click on something. Oh my goodness, it goes away. That's part of what we want. Very exciting. However, what we want it to do now is we want it to show us the next one. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so after it gets done here, we're going to say document get element by ID. We can say, I think we can do this, Q plus Q's, plus, here we go, Q's plus 1. That should work. So what this is doing is it says, okay, add 1 to Q's and call this element ID Q2 in this case, because 1 and 1 are 2. We're going to say dot style dot display equal quote block. Now there's going to be some problems with this. It's going to kind of work and then it's going to stop working. And we're going to figure out what we need to do. Okay, so here's the first one. Now I'm going to click this. Oh, there's the next one. Where should you pet a cat? Oh, what's the average lifespan? Oh, how many hours per day? Okay, now I have to say show me my score. So that does kind of work, actually. That does kind of work. All right, we can have our answer there. We could stop there if we wanted to. But let me suggest, let's go through this one more time. So what would you feed a cat? Canned tuna, under the chin, 15 years, 16 hours, show me my score. Cats think you are meh. All right, so let me suggest something that might be a little more elegant. And that is, I'm going to get everything right. High protein cat food, under the chin, about 15 years, about 16 hours. It would be much more elegant if we could see the answer right here instead of having to click on show me my score. It would be nice to see the answer immediately, and there's a way to do that. Oh, I'm a cat lover. All right, let me show you how we're going to do it. It's not that difficult. Okay, so the way this is set up is it comes in, it sets Q's to 0. After it analyzes the answer, it adds 1 to Q. So if you're on question 1, it goes to, or if you're on question 0, if you just loaded the page, it goes to question 1, and it gets rid of it, and then it displays question 1 plus 1, which is question 2. And then you come in again, when you click again, it evaluates the answer, it adds 1 to Q's, and then it gets rid of it, and then it displays it again. So what would be a little bit more elegant would be, instead of having to click on the show me the results, would be a simple if statement that would show us when, that would count the questions for us and say, okay, if we know we have 4 questions, so if the question that we're on is less than 4, then display the next element, which would be question 4. Otherwise, execute show results. Okay, so it's a slightly different way of doing it. Okay, so let's try this. Let me show you how it's going to work. And this works because I know how many questions I have. I have 4 questions, so you're going to have to just work with the fact that you have 4 questions. So here I'm going to say if Q's is less than 4, okay, then we're going to do this. Okay, so if the number of questions is less than 4, we're going to do this. However, if it equals 4, we're just going to go right ahead to this function, show results. Okay, so this language here, if you see this sitting by itself, it means go find a function called show results and execute it. And then we have show results down here. So what should happen in this case is we should see, right, we should see our results displayed after question 4. So we don't have to press the show results button. Let's see what that looks like. Sorry. So I'll get them all wrong. Canned tuna, rub the belly, 5 years, 8 hours. I got 0 answers right. So I did not need to press the button. I got my answer immediately, which is what I kind of like. Okay, let me try it again. Let's try to get all of the answers right. High protein, under the chin, 15 years, 16 hours. 4 answers right. Very nice. Okay, so that means a couple of things. I'm going to do now to fix this up a little more. I'm going to modify the results ID in the CSS. I'm going to make the image a little smaller. I can do that. I'll show you how. And I'm going to get rid of the submit button, which is something that we see when this loads, the show me my score button. I no longer need it. So to get rid of the show me my score button, I'm just going to go to the HTML and I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the CSS and I'm going to style up the results, because even though we're writing JavaScript to style up the results, we can also put some styles in here. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to try, let's try this. So I want to make the image inside of results. So results, img. I'm going to say width 50%. Okay, let's see if that works. All right, so I'm going to reload. Okay, cats eat anything, rub the belly, 10 years, 12 hours. Very nice. I got 0 answers right. I must be a dog lover. Okay, so from this point, you can do a lot more in the way of styling. You can go back to results and you can style your presentation more to your liking. You can add things like rounded corners and semi-transparencies and different images. So on Canvas, I'm going to tell you this, I implemented the FancyQuiz just a little bit differently than I did here. Just a little bit, you'll see it. Actually, I'll show you. It's basically the same thing. It's done in a slightly different way. I'll show it to you. It might be a little bit easier to style. So this is what I did. I said at the point where we determine in function show results, so I put the name of the image and the into a variable called grade img, and I put the text of the results, what are you, a dog lover, into a variable called grade. And so when I displayed the results, I said you got rights, we've seen that one before, document, get element by ID. So quiz results is this. So first we put quiz results, which is this line, and then I put a div in there with some styling, and then grade img, which is the URL of the cat picture, and then grade, which is the text of the grade. And then I told it to display it as a block. So it's basically the same thing, it's just written a little bit differently. But you should be able to modify it without any problem. Okay, so that's it. That's the fancy quiz. Good luck, everybody.